All right. Hi, Björn. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thanks
My
for having
question, my question for you, Björn, today is how can founders tell if they've achieved product market fit?
I think this is one of the biggest questions. So it would be hyper unprofessional to answer it in one sentence, but let's jump into it. So product market fit. So for me, there is some repeatability and some pull from the market on the new customer side. And there is also a proof for after actually selling to customers. So what does it mean? So what I'd like to have some repeatability is similar customers with similar challenges we are responding to with comparable use cases, because this is important for the commercial organization, but also for the product organization. And the other component is, do we deliver what we proposed before? So meaning churn is low, and or ideally I see already leading indicators for expansion or expansion. And I know that some could potentially say, yeah, I'm selling with 12-month contract, a 24-month contract, 36. At the very end, frankly, I don't care, because if I do not deliver, I would say you don't have product market fit.
Got it. Okay. That means, if I understand it correctly, that if you say like you need to have repeatedly similar customers, right? And with similar use cases and similar challenges, that you also need to really deeply understand your ICP, your target audience, and you need to repeatedly also check in and analyze those customers, right?
So very briefly speaking, yes. So I think, yeah, and I think there are some concepts, and in my book, I distinguish between the product market fit as a kind of early indication of market traction and delivering value. And for me, the much more interesting part comes before go to market fit is product segment fit. So meaning that I have this. So, and everyone who's been a founder, and I've been a founder myself, so it's super tough to build up this initial traction, and hands down, you take opportunistically some deals where it's not the perfect fit, but it does pay some bills, it proves some traction, and you have this kind of still pretty messy, vague product market fit. But within this initial traction, I see it over and over. You have these kind of segments in showing some repeatability. What you're saying, similar, comparable companies, personas, industries, use cases, and similar results in terms of impact. And this is, I think, some guidance to
Yeah.
judge whether you have product market fit or not.
Okay, got it. And I mean, you're working a lot with all different kinds of startups, right? What are the three most common reasons you see why founders fail to achieve product market fit?
So I only work with B2B SaaS and AI companies. So all the rest I wouldn't dare to answer this questions. So the first one is, I think, and if you look, for example, I'm a big fan of the innovation adoption curve. So when you have these kind of, you have so you have the innovators and you have the early majority. And I think, and I've seen it a lot, that to build up this initial traction, whether you call it a beachhead segment or any kind of traction, you have to convince these early customer traction, early segments.
Yeah.
And then you could argue, do you already have product market fit with these early customers, or do you have kind of to cross the chasm, highly recommended book, to properly have this kind of product market fit or product segment fit? So why do they fail is that they, and I've been myself, they do everything and nothing. And at the very end, they have 1 million, 2 million, even 3 million. But if you dive deeper, it's kind of, it's they are not delivering, or they do not have any kind of repeatability. So meaning I'm a big fan of Marco Bürsch, former chief revenue officer of HubSpot, lecturer at Harvard, etc. And I think one of the main reasons is that, fueled by venture capital, is that we are looking primarily about kind of top line growth and revenue, but we are kind of neglecting the leading indicators, what is truly driving product market fit, in seeing some patterns, some repeatability, and delivering value after purchasing the product.
Got it. And what would you say, like quite like hands-on, what can founders do to like check in on that regularly, or like, kind of like check themselves if they're on a good way to product market fit or not? Like, what would be like, things you recommend founders should do like on a regular basis in order to keep track?
So I think I'm a huge fan of structure. So not just for the purpose of it, but to at least have some guardrails, especially for founders, but also so anyone who's supporting founders on doing founder sales and founder-led sales. So one thing, if you boil down a classic B2B sales journey, you have 3 main meetings. So you have the first discovery meeting, let's call it a kind of discovery call. Somehow you got some leads, either through inbound, outbound network, etc. And then you have normally roughly 30 minutes to discover the status quo, to see whether you, with your solution, can and should support this kind of pain reliefment. And then you should work on proper pains and not just some vitamins. And then you have kind of the next meeting is the value demonstration. So really matching the status quo of the company with the pains with your current solution. And the next step is kind of, are they willing to take in kind of offer proposal, offer presentation meeting? So if you have this kind of in place and attach to it a basic discovery framework like custom my own spiced. So let's work with this. You have a very simplified but reliable framework to judge, do I move from one stage to another? Is there any kind of pull from the customer to take the next meeting? Or is there any kind of hesitation and say, whether it's the product, it's the use case. So you will see and you will discover much earlier in a structured way some patterns to see, okay, where is it moving and where are there any blockers, and or because the product normally develops in parallel. So what needs to happen, or what did change that nowadays the kind of pipeline with the developed product is developing faster. So sales cycle decrease, conversion rate increases. So that's the new customer side. And the second component is I apply the same logic in terms of saying, okay, how do we track onboarding? How do we define onboarding success? How do we define usage? And how do we define time to value, time to impact, to track the same path post sales?
Yeah, got it. Makes sense. Like maybe that's my last question but when should founders start like creating this kind of like system or process? Because like, as a founder, I think you need to somehow like find the right timing, because if you start too early, you maybe like overdo it, right? It's like way too early. You don't have enough revenue, don't have enough like customers and data to really like build that system. When is a good time to start thinking about product market fit? Is there any like number you have in mind, or like recurring revenue?
Yeah, I recently had a discussion about, so I think as a proxy, there is more or less 1 million, but with a but. But I think there's a strong but. So because it strongly makes a difference whether you have kind of these 1 million ARR coming from 10 different use cases and 10 different customer types and or segments, Or you have kind of out of these 1 million, you have 600K, 60% in segment 1 with low churn and great expansion potential.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And just I totally agree with you. So when I first heard kind of processes and structures, I thought, okay, yeah, I don't need this as a founder from day one. But so to have this kind of threefold in how do I structure kind of discovery call? And you can do so much rapid prototyping and focusing on with the right structure. So to have some guardrails, how to structure the first meeting, how to structure the second meeting, when to stop, and how to disqualify actively. Because one thing founders do not have are kind of endless resources. So it should be in their own interest to have some guidance where to stop and how to proceed. Because so often you hear these kind of glorified stories. They have been hitting the wall for 1,000 times. So it's just one part of the story. So to sum up some advice, I would really recommend to have some best practice. So please do not reinvent the wheel. So there are some proven methods in how to structure your first call, how to structure a demo, and how to present your offer, and use this in a structured way to navigate towards product market fit.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Björn.
Why you were laughing?
No. I just found it. I'm very curious to hear your point of view, because like I think you've seen so many startups from the inside and so many different cases that I'm just like curious to hear your thoughts on it. So yeah, not challenging what you're saying. So don't get me wrong.
All right. Good.
So yeah, thank you so much, Björn, for sharing all that.
That was fun. Thanks for the invite, Valentin.